You can usually tell when someone has gone through too much, but not in the way people expect. They're not always angry. They're not always sad. Sometimes they're calm, almost too calm. They listen more than they speak. They don't rush into excitement. They don't overreact the way others do. And when something bad happens, their response isn't panic. It's a quiet, familiar stillness. Like they've been here before. The psychology of people who have gone through too much is rarely loud. It's subtle, layered, and often misunderstood. One of the most noticeable patterns is emotional containment. People who faced repeated stress, loss, or instability often learn to compress their emotions instead of expressing them outwardly. Not because they don't feel, but because feeling everything openly became inefficient at some point. When life demands endurance, emotional efficiency takes over. So instead of reacting, they assess. Instead of venting, they observe. Instead of collapsing, they compartmentalize. This doesn't mean they're numb. It means they've learned how to function while carrying weight. Another common pattern is a deep familiarity with uncertainty. They don't trust stability easily, not because they're pessimistic, but because experience taught them that change can arrive without warning. Psychologically, this creates hyper-adaptability. They're good at adjusting, recalibrating, surviving, but it can also make it hard for them to relax into good moments. Peace sometimes feels temporary. Joy feels conditional, not because they don't want happiness, but because their nervous system is trained to stay alert. There's also a distinct shift in how they relate to problems. Minor issues don't register the same way. Things that overwhelm others barely move the needle. This can look like strength or detachment or emotional distance. But what's really happening is scale. When you've already faced emotional extremes, everyday frustrations feel smaller by comparison. Your internal reference point has changed. The downside is that people may assume you don't care, when in reality, you've just learned to reserve your energy for what truly matters. Another pattern is selective vulnerability. People who've gone through too much are often careful about who they open up to. They don't overshare easily. Trust is built slowly through consistency rather than words. This isn't emotional coldness, it's discernment. They've learned that not everyone handles truth well, and not every listener is safe, so they choose silence over explanation, depth over breadth. When they do open up, it's intentional, and usually meaningful. There's also a noticeable shift in values. Status, drama, and surface-level validation lose their appeal. What matters more is peace, autonomy, and emotional clarity. They don't chase intensity for excitement. They've had enough intensity already. Interestingly, many people in this category develop a quiet sense of empathy. Not the loud, expressive kind, but a grounded, non-intrusive understanding of pain. They don't rush to fix others. They don't minimize struggles. They simply recognize them. Because they know what it's like when life doesn't pause for recovery. But here's the part that's rarely acknowledged. Going through too much often creates inner contradictions. Strength mixed with exhaustion. Wisdom paired with emotional fatigue. Resilience alongside a deep desire for rest. People see the strength and assume there's no cost. They don't see the energy it takes to remain composed, to keep functioning, to keep going without falling apart. And sometimes, the hardest part isn't what they went through. It's how invisible the impact becomes over time. So if you recognize someone like this, or see parts of yourself here, it's worth remembering that survival reshapes people. Not always dramatically, often quietly. And the calm you're seeing isn't emptiness, it's experience that learned how to stay standing.